I'm Kalen, the co-founder of Functronic Labs, and yeah, I like programming stuff and making cool video games, and that's what we're chatting about today.
Hi, my name is Yun Sang Yu. I'm the marketing director for Functronic Labs. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be a part of this project, and I'm really excited to talk with you guys today.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys have put together, wow, it's a mesh of things. Wavebreak. This is, as I've played, a sort of skateboarding trick game, sort of in the vein of Tony Hawk, on motorboats with animal people and Miami Vice themed, sort of like a coastal crime and law game.
that
with bears.
Yeah. Covers the spread of it. We always joke that it's kind of like if you didn't say no to any feature during development, you know, that's kind of how you get here. It's like, you know, the heart of it is Tony Hawk, but we're like, oh, what if we had this? Would that be fun? We try it and we're like, no, that's not good. This is fun. It's fun. Let's keep it. And then, you know, multiply that by a couple of years and get a bit of everything. So
that does lead into a good question. Like, how did this happen? What was the foundation of this idea? Like, how did Wavebreak sort of form?
So early on, we were prototyping a new game. We just finished working on a VR game called Cosmic Trip, which is like StarCraft RTS FPS thing. And so we had a little water simulation with a little boat racing, and like let's try some ramps. And then it's like, hey, let's try a half pipe. And then, you know, the team was chatting, and it's like, we realized that like all the core devs on the game were all really big Tony Hawk fans, and so we just kind of went for that as like the core of the game, and like started adding half pipes and grab tricks and kickflips and grind rails, and like, yeah, this is what we want to make for sure. And then kind of it just evolved from that into like, well, what's a cool theme for that, you know? And we kind of landed on Miami Vice with synthwave aesthetics, and I don't know, we just like the colors, like the era, like the genre. Love the music, and then we're just going to try to take Tony Hawk as like the skating game core and like build on top of it. So like the guns and stuff, like even though it's fun to just like mess around and shoot things and shoot people and multiplayer stuff, it does tie into the trick system. So it's kind of a attempt to like evolve it a litof bit to be a bit more dynamic and stuff like that. So a lot of experimenting, trying to take a genre a little bit further than it was before and do it in a cool theme and kind of have fun along the way.
Where did the level design start with something like this? Where like, did you have ideas for the way that you wanted levels to be, like, or like as the layouts go, or did you like take an aesthetic like island, hotel, or warehouse, and then start to build the level around that?
I think there's a little bit of both. So we had someone making like gray box versions of the level, and you almost couldn't tell like what it even was, you know, like what kind of location it was. It was just, he tried to make a fun layout with ramps, half pipes, like grindable rails and stuff. And then we had some concept art of different locations in the game. You know, we had maybe 20 different locations we wanted to do, like, you know, like a big mountain lakes, and like obviously the ones that are in there, like the tropical island and the nighttime city. And I guess we just narrowed down some of those and just tried to sort of merge them together. Like, oh, this layout, you know, we could kind of put a hotel here, and then what we do is take the gray box version of the level that's all cubes, which I think we've posted some pictures of here and there. It's kind of nice to see this side by side, and then you just kind of draw the concept art again over the top of it as it would look as a final level, and then go and spend months and months grinding out 3D models and graphics technology to make it happen.
It also helps too that like throughout the process, our team has been kind of like listening to a lot of the synthwave type of music, specifically from new retrowave. So a lot of that basically kind of played into a lot of the environmental designs as well, because we kind of wanted to fit that 80s synthwave kind of aesthetic too.
Yeah, we had a lot of playlists that were like, I guess, our internal favorites that were just synthwave playlists that, like, honestly, like we would just listen to them throughout a lot of dev just to, because we like it and because you just be in the vibe, you know.
First off, it's just completely chill with that soundtrack throughout. It's super like relaxing, but also synthwave is kind of also, there are a lot of songs that just kind of have that hype moment in them, and I would like bail on a trick, and then I would get a little frustrated, and then it would hit that point in the music, and I would get hyped up. And I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna land this combo.
It's when the big saxophone solos kick in, right?
I do want to add, like, you also have like kind of a light story mode going on here, because there are like there are the typical goals that you would have of a level, but then you also have like the characters have these interactable moments where like they provide not only a special challenge, but also like some narrative to go along with it. And I want to know what kind of came first. Did the challenge came first, or did the story come first when you were designing that?
I think the like baseline challenges, I think we just had a pretty good idea of what they would be. Like find things in the level, do certain tricks, get certain high score benchmarks. I think it's kind of fairly standard, I guess. So we didn't really, I don't feel like we invented that so much as we just did our version of it. The story stuff, I guess we just like the theme of the world, the like, 80s TV show, like cops and robbers. It's over the top, it's fun, it's like I don't know, it's like silly villainous stuff, just doing stupid villain things, and it's just a fun sort of place to play with. And so the story we definitely did later, because we wanted to have all the levels and locations fleshed out. We had an idea of what was happening in each of the worlds. So like in the tropical hotel, it's like we knew from the start that what's going on there is like high roller dealings of various sorts for the premium clients. They go to a nice like beach location, and it's all casinos and stuff in the nighttime city and stuff like that. So we knew like what fun crime activities are happening there, and then we just sat down and just blasted through a bunch of silly story ideas and just, I guess, turned them into missions.
I think what's interesting about those story missions too is that they sort of kind of show you what you can do with a level when you're doing them. Like for example, like there's one in the island hotel where you have to get a trigger from the top of a lighthouse, and I was like, well, how do I get up there? And then I realized, oh, there's a brine that goes all the way up to the top. And then I realized, like after I was done with that story mission, I could use that in my trick strings. And it was really interesting how it was not only like had this fun little story element, but it also guided me into like ideas that I could fit into what I was doing with the level as well.
Yeah, I think some of that was intentional, but it wasn't in a very like analytical game design sense. We didn't like arrange them for like a perfect like skill progression for the player, but definitely we picked some of the missions as like, okay, like you got to nail grinds and like balancing to do this mission. Maybe it would have been better if it was like an earlier mission or a later mission in terms of like how players kind of pick up skills through the game. But yeah, we just, that's what we ended up with.
It's also an interesting thing that you got going on here with the motorboats aspect, because, well, one of the biggest changes from like a normal Tony Hawk game per se is that you, instead of having the shoulder buttons for something like say manuals and reverts, you have them for acceleration and deceleration. And at first I was like, well, does that mean manuals and reverts are here? And then I realized no, they're just somewhere else. And like, how did that design philosophy work out when you were like figuring out where to put those buttons and where to put those functions to make it continue to be fun?
I think for controls, we usually just try a lot of things, and the one that, like sometimes when you try a new control scheme, it doesn't feel good at first. So you kind of leave them to soak for a couple of days, and then you really start to get into it, and you're like, okay, this is the one to stick with. So I think we had a lot of iterations, like the manuals and automatics, which are like up in triangle and down in triangle right now. They were still up down for a long time, but then we found that you wanted like the vertical axis control of your boat in the air, so it didn't really work for wave break. So we, let's try up in triangle or down in triangle, and it's like it felt really bad at first. It's like you have so much muscle memory of like up down for manuals, but like once it kind of sticks, then you can't go back, and you're like, okay, this is one we want to sit with. And I think it was similar for the acceleration and stuff. You used to, in the skating games, you kind of move forward automatically, and so it's really weird to get used to holding down R2 to drive at first. And we added an option to do it automatically for you, but it just ends up being one of those things that you just get used to, and it like integrates into your muscle memory. You get like a software update to this like skating muscle memory that you've had dormant in your system, and then you just it's good after that point.
And obviously Tony Hawk is kind of a core component of inspiration for this game based on the way it's designed, but like are there any other skating or other video games in particular that sort of inspired the basis of Wave Break and how it plays?
I think the three pillars, I guess, the games that we would refer to is Conker's Bad Fur Day, Wave Race, and Tony Hawk series. It kind of encompasses all the parts of it, you know. Conker for the vibe, and Wave Race for the water and the cool driving feel, and then skating, obviously, the horse skating mechanics.
I didn't even think of Conker at first, but like what I think
it's like now once you see it.
Well, there's like this. You guys drew a bunch of super realistic animals and like Miami Vice clothes, and I think one of the ones that just had me busting out laughing is when the bear gets mad in one of his moments of dialogue, and it actually has that like wide mouth lip like stretched out roar going on. I'm like, that is a bear drug dealer in a suit, but it still looks terrifying.
Yeah, it was just, if it felt fun, we went with it.
Not only do you have like this sort of robust setup with everything going on in this game, the levels and the character designs and the aesthetic, but you also have a pretty fleshed out looking like community set of tools between your part creator and like you already have workshop support. Is this a game that you want to continue to see? Like, do you want to continue to see the community grow and continue to make their sort of own content and share it with each other?
Yeah, definitely. You know, at some point in the future, like, you know, we'll all be working on other games, right? We want the game to like kind of live on its own, and like we've got a lot of things we want to add to the game ourselves, but at the end of the day, like everybody has, you know, some cool idea deep inside them, and like really just giving them all the tools to try and make those ideas as best they can in the game is like, I think it's the best choice. I think, you know, there's one guy, someone on our Discord, he just wanted to make a level that all the graphics were like baked bean textures. You know, that's fun for somebody, right? It's like we can't ship a level like that, but like he had fun, he made it, a couple other people had a good time playing on it, and it's like that's I don't know, that's kind of the perfect dream of a game. I think everybody just gets to have fun, and honestly, like some of the actual like pure skating parks that people have made have been really good. And I think, you know, maybe the park creator is a little bit simplified compared to the custom levels that we make, which are quite large and a lot of custom stuff. But I think as a pure skating park, I think definitely some of the park created designs like exceed the ones that we made. So I'm excited to see more of that for sure. And it's a lot of fun to do it multiplayer, like having everybody in there making parks like and playing it at the same time. I know that's a blast. That's probably my favorite way to play the game right now.
I think also too, one of my favorite aspects of the park creator is being able to actually import your own 3D models and your own images. Being from someone who is familiar with like Blender and Maya and things like that, and being able to know that I can actually create a quick model on a different program and being able to import it and play it within the game like pretty immediately, that's kind of one of the biggest draws for me. And you know, it's one of the things that I think our community is very like enthused about, and it's one of the things that I think consistently has our community come back and create things, is to be the freedom to be able to have that creativity, to be able to kind of create their own objects and create their own things that we don't have provided within our tool set. And I think that allows for so many different kind of creations to come about in the future.
That's really excellent too, because like I do follow the Wave Break social media, and I happen to see a certain Mayhaps close to Tony Hawk 2 level that y'all may have put together pretty recently. Yeah, and it was just very interesting to see all of those things I recognize, like those pieces of that certain level arranged in your style. I think it's just super interesting and representative, like what you can do with what you have.
Yeah.
Just stating for the record, that was a fan-made creation. That was not created by anyone on our dev team, and okay, just
Our lawyers approve of this statement. Yeah, I think when you give people a park creator, they go for things they're familiar with. So we're definitely going to see like a lot of remakes. I know someone's been dumping like Mario Kart worlds and just driving around, and it's like, why not? It's fun, right? We internally testing the feature. We did a lot of that too, of course. But I think like that's the first wave, like silly ideas, import other games, remake some levels. Like that's a lot of fun, but kind of excited for the wave after that, where people are like, okay, now that I'm kind of familiar with it, like what's like my idea,
Y'all have this game on Steam, of course, right now, but it's also on Nintendo Switch. And I think I saw eventually it's supposed to be coming to PlayStation and Xbox as well. Is that correct?
I don't think we officially have confirmed anything yet, but we'd very much like to bring it to the other consoles.
Right. That does bring up the interesting question, though, is do you intend to somehow support or continue to expand that sort of community creation aspect and sharing aspect to beyond Steam?
It's difficult. The workshop does a lot of the heavy lifting for sharing content, so it's definitely like more limited on the consoles right now. We do have a thing where if you play with someone on a custom park, like you kind of get a copy of it automatically. So if you make a park and play with your friends, they all have a copy of that park now, and then they can like spin it off. And so people playing multiplayer kind of can slowly share parks, but it's certainly not as refined as workshop. So I guess that's something we're talking about right now, is how can we kind of get parity for the console versions in that way, because that'll be, yeah, we would definitely like to do that. I'll say that.
Because this game has so many fun elements of different genres together, like, can we expect like other racers as like a throwback to certain games that I won't name on this interview for legal reasons? Maybe you might put a bear on a jet ski or something with a motorcycle helmet or something.
I think so. I think when we look at, I guess, our mega list of like game mode ideas, there's certainly a lot of stuff that people would find familiar. So I'm sure there'll be more of that in the future.
Are we also going to see like expansions on the toolbox? Are we going to see more official levels? Is there going to be DLC for Wave Break?
I guess I don't know. Like, we don't really have concrete plans for like DLC, but in terms of updates, and I don't know which things will be coming, but we have a wish list that goes to the moon. Like even for the park creator specifically, like we have a big list of stuff that the more we can add, the better. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of factors in like which things we'll do and when and how much of it, but I can tell you like the appetite of things the stuff we would like to add is a lot.
I think we'll also look into kind of seeing what the community is asking for, and I think that's probably one of like our biggest like ways for us to be able to make a decision on some of the upcoming features and upcoming things that we want to include in the update. Like to a certain extent we have an idea of what we want to do, but at the same time we want to be able to actually kind of like let our core community know some of the things that we're looking to do and see what they want us to prioritize first, so that way we can always try to kind of bring something fresh, bring something new, but be able to actually kind of cater to our core audience as well.
Now that the game's live and people are playing with the park creator, like a few requests came in straight away that were like, why didn't we think of that? And some things that really help people out with just creating specific kinds of parks. And yeah, definitely if anybody listening to this is ever playing on park creator and they want a feature, then we're always on Discord, and like that feedback is super useful.
And as Kaylin mentioned before, this game was kind of created with us not necessarily saying no to a lot of ideas. So we're always open to like crazy and far-fetched ideas that people within the community or just fans in general might have. And it is something that I think we'll definitely kind of like secretly tinker with behind the scenes. And if it is fun, we'll definitely include it. But we're always open to any like ideas or any kind of like suggestions from our community.
Where can people go to find more information about your game? Where can they go to support it?
You can go to wavebreakgame.com, and we should have all the links for all the platforms up there. And we're on Twitter at wavebreakgame and Twitter at Funktronic Labs if you want to follow some of our other projects. Probably the most active place is Discord for us. So I believe it's discord.gg/Funktronic Labs. So we got everybody, most of the devs are in there most of the time. If you have a question about Wave Break, you want to know, why is this bug so bad? Whose fault is this? Any random questions, or you just want to, made something cool with the game, want to share it, stuff like that. I think, yeah.
Also,
the best place.
One more thing to add to, I think our programmer recently made it so that like our game can be moddable as well too. So if you actually jump on our Discord, our developers and programmers are always on there to kind of help people out and coach people out and show them how to be able to kind of utilize some of the tool sets that we've created as well.
4/7 live premium developer support.
And the last thing I want to know is like, can you guys Yusung, can you try to get Tom Selleck involved in this in some way? Either.
Maybe his mustache. But yeah, I grew up watching Magnum PI. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like when we were actually discussing a lot of like reference material, I'm like, you guys watch Magnum PI, right? And then I showed them like the intro sequence, and but I'll definitely try to see if we can kind of reach out to Tom Selleck as well, because I'm a big Tom Selleck fan.
There is a big mustache boat antenna. Might be referencing something.
I'm gonna tag him on Twitter. Be like, Tom Selleck, get involved with these guys. Come on, throw him a bone.